Hello, everybody. How's it going? And welcome to another episode of Quack and Code, where we discuss data tech topic and do a part where we code. And today we have an interesting guest working at HuggingFace. If you haven't worked at HuggingFace or if you do use HuggingFace, please let me know in the comment. We have already seen someone that said that it does use Hugging Face, but haven't used the dataset viewer. We'll talk about that. But so we've been actually Hugging Face has been around DuckDB topics multiple times already at the DuckCon in Amsterdam and in Paris, where we did a DuckDB meetup in French. Shout out to Quentin for his talk. And now we have again someone else, Andrea, which is also working on the dataset viewer. And I'm super excited to have her on the show. So, warm welcome, Andrea. How are you doing?
Hello everyone. I'm happy to participate in today's podcast.
Nice. So, you said so it's the afternoon, right, for you right now?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Evening for me, and maybe the morning for someone else. And so, before diving into the different topics, what exactly do you do, and what's your background first? How did you come as software engineer and then working at Hugging Face?
Okay, I am Andrea Soria. I live here in Bolivia, in Cochabamba City, which is in the heart of South America. I am a system engineer and also I had a master degree in business intelligence, all around data warehousing, data mart, and ETL processes. Before joining Hugging Face, which was 1.5 years ago, I worked on different positions. I used to change my job like each year, which sometimes is not seen well, but I
I've
think,
done that. I've done that as well. So that's
oh yeah,
don't worry. Don't worry.
you understand. Yeah, because in many interviews they ask me, why do you change your job so frequently? But I think all of these changes make me have a broad comprehension about software engineering. I worked as a full stack. Then I realized that I didn't like too much user interfaces, so I become a backend developer. But I was still looking for my passion, which was actually data. I love more working with SQL on all data stuff. And now I am here in HuggingFace working as a software and like a data engineer because I am in the dataset viewer project, which I can tell you more in details
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes.
But so that's interesting. What did actually the thing around data makes you interested to to jump in from the back end and the project itself? Yeah.
Actually, I loved when I have a data inconsistency issue, for example, if there was a quality issue, because I like to investigate or to do troubleshooting. Sometimes I felt like Sherlock Holmes of data because it's super exciting when you have to go for clues for many different sources and finally you find the inconsistency and you can fix it. That's what I like more than interfaces or services actually.
Yeah, so the it's really the relationship with data basically that makes the thing interesting. But it's true that debugging data pipeline can be sometimes quite challenging, especially if you're not the owner of the data source.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, how do you easily handle that?
mm, it was not easy because there are some data sources with messy schema, messy data, and also if there is a legacy system, you have to ask about the meaning of the data, the sources, the relation, and it sometimes is kind of impossible because even the owners don't know what their data do, and you have to do you have to suppose some clues, and then you have to prove that. And that's what I like at SQL, because there are many interesting functions, window functions. You can create tables, and that's all. Uh, that's why I like it more SQL than other languages because you can integrate everything in one single truth.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I know of a few folks that actually, have the data frame mindset, and that's why they don't like SQL. But it's nice to find people that's moving from the programming language interface to SQL. But SQL is
Oh
great
yeah,
because it's also a lower technical barrier to entry, right? It's the common
yeah,
denominator with a lot of uh, data profile, a bit less technical. So that's true. Let's do a short intro on Hugging Face first, because I'm sure there is people that are aware of Hugging Face itself, or they use the models or not the space. So just talk. If you could give us an intro about the main component of what makes Hugging Face. What is Hugging Face today? I have um, I have here the website. You can see it.
yeah,
So maybe we can do you can do a walkthrough over here to the different things that we can, that Hugging Face has.
yeah. First, I like to answer this question because it's nice. Uh, what we are at Hugging Face, we're a company that is trying to collaborate with the well to democratize good machine learning. This is the mission. But we are a collaborative open source platform. We try to cover the machine learning flow from end to end, providing libraries, tools. In this case, the Hugging Face Hub, which is the main platform. Besides that, we work with other companies or research projects to create papers, to release new data sets, models, and so on. In this case, you are on the Hugging Face Hub platform, which is like a GitHub of machine learning, I would say. But nowadays, I am looking at it more like a social media for machine learning, because you can create your profile. You
Interesting.
can even post about your thoughts, your investigations. People can interact with it. They can like it, or they can comment. They can contribute, and it's I think it's a good point for machine learning people that like that. Now let's go to the sections. We
Yeah.
have three main sections here. I would start with the datasets.
Yeah. Let's go with the
Well,
data set.
when we are working on machine learning process, we first need data. Here we have more than 100,000 datasets.
Yeah.
It's growing every day. All of them are public and it's easy to access. What people do here, they can publish. Well, we have actually two kind of users, I would say, for datasets. The ones that are looking for data for training models or
Mm-hmm.
doing some data exploration, and other users that want to show or share the data in the community. They are looking for hosting, for example. Here you can see the trending datasets, and we can do it later. We will go through the dataset viewer itself. But here you can filter by tasks.
Yeah.
If you are looking for a image classification task, you can click them and you will find a lot of data
Yeah.
that you can download and process and do whatever you need. Even you can contribute if there are if you find something weird or a legal concern, you can contribute. We have a tab in the viewer where you can share your thoughts. Also, you can filter by languages. The languages are, I think it's really important nowadays because there's a lot of models and data in English, but
Yeah.
we want to democratize all of this process. So we have to include Spanish, French,
Yeah.
other inclusive groups.
That's a good that is a the that's a good point that um we often forget. I mean, I'm not English native, but I work in English and I'm really comfortable. But I know, for example, in DuckDB, we have community in Brazil which are really active and using DuckDB, but they mostly learn in Brazilian, right? So we often forget that in Portuguese, I mean, that we people have different way of learning aside from the machine learning application. That's important to have diversity into the language.
Yeah, it's pretty much important, I think, because if you want to train a solid model in a specific language, you will need a lot of data, and models can many times mistake by languages.
Yeah.
Even the current models I've seen, this Hema, ChatGPT, sometimes they fail.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with the
Yeah.
second part, which is models. Once you have a data set, the next step that usually users do is to train a model, or they can, the same way, they can download a model, run maybe locally,
Yeah.
or they can share their model with the community.
Yeah.
Here we have like 600,000.
Yeah.
The same way you can filter by tasks depending on what you are doing.
Yeah.
Uh, what is interesting here is that there are some models that share their weight, the file model itself, but some of them, for example, if you can click on one of them, not sure if this one does,
Yeah, they
but
they normally do. I think I read it.
yeah, before continue, I maybe I can explain you a little bit about what is a repository in HuggingFace,
Yeah.
which is the main entity in all of this hub. Each project, each dataset, model, or space is like a GitHub repository, let's say that
Yeah.
like that, which is compounded by different files and the README file, which is the card. We call it
Yeah.
the space or the model card. Maybe you can choose another.
Yeah. Yeah. So there
The
is
card
the
is the card has the information about the model or the dataset,
yeah.
where they say how users can use it, even download it, or how it was built.
Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. But what I wanted to highlight is that there are some models that even they share which data they are using,
Yeah.
and they are linked to the data sets over they were trained on. And in this part, in the right, for example, you have an spaces list, which means we will go then to spaces,
Yeah.
but these spaces are like applications that users build using Python to showcase these models, their data set, and other researches. And what is amazing for me here is that you can link your data set, your model, your space, and you can see that the community is really building something interesting and all of on top of the open and free software.
Yeah.
It's important, I think, to know from which data sources your model comes from, and if it's open to watch and to audit. I think that's more safe and truth for the community.
Yeah, if
You
it's a
can
black
go,
box, it's a pretty
yeah,
difficult to estimate the legibility and and also the around ethics and so on if it's a good model. So far we've done so we start with the data sets. You have 100,000 of them, and models, and we so you have and you can filter by application. There is a couple of models. You explain also the entity of a repository that contain the models, and then there is the spaces that which
yeah,
is basically the application where you can quickly uh, deploy um, your model and have a runtime of there. So you have the source data, you have the source model, and then you have basically the runtime.
Yes, what I forgot to mention about the spaces is that everything you upload it, you can do it with a couple of lines in Python.
Yeah,
All of them are like mini applications that you don't need to know about infrastructure
yeah,
or even user interface, which
yeah.
for me is incredible because I don't want to talk about I don't like HTML or CSS. All of these applications are built with Python.
Yeah,
There are two frameworks, Gradio and Streamlit,
yeah,
where you can use. You have some components that you can use directly.
yeah, yeah. So Gradio and Streamlit are both uh, framework to build application or data apps or data visualization with the Python runtime. And actually, we've done a live stream with someone with from the Streamlit team to talk about how DuckDB works with Streamlit and Pro. So that's great. And the post, like maybe you can talk a bit about it. I think it's pretty new, right?
Yes, I think it's like 3 months.
Yeah,
Where you can post, and this make the hub looks more like social media.
I see. Yeah,
You can share your papers, so even if you can follow people, uh,
yeah,
and if you have a network or colleagues that they are doing some likes or they are commenting, you will see it as well of all of this network,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yes.
you can
Is as you
show
see
your work.
here, you have reference of the papers, the different space that the person. It's kind of like the portfolio of
Yeah,
everything that he has interacted. The models are here, and then the data sets.
yeah. No, we now have the collections where you can create a set of resources for a specific topic.
Yeah,
For example, I created a collection for text to SQL where we have different models, spaces, data sets. You can add it.
what is your username?
It's a Soria, a Soria. No, without Andrea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
There you have.
found you. Find you. Yeah. So this is the
Yeah.
collection you mentioned.
Yes, and you can share
Okay.
this collection if you want to talk about a specific topic.
Yeah. No, that's nice. That's great. All right, we have already like took quite some time, so I think it was important to give a good overview on what's HuggingFace in general. And so here I'm just looking quickly at the chat. Loving this walkthrough. So people appreciate the walkthrough. Um, and so yeah, I think so. Now we can move on to yeah, zooming in on the dataset viewer because that's what you work on. Is that correct?
Yeah. Initially, it was a library. We have
Mm-hmm.
the datasets library,
Yeah,
which is another project that lets you mainly download datasets from this hub, and you can push the hub with a line of code.
yeah,
But this is using the library locally. What we were working on is in the dataset viewer project. Previously, it was named dataset server, but it is 1 month that it's named viewer because it's basically can you go through the one of the datasets, for example?
yeah. So
Okay, so all of this is the viewer.
yeah, so this one,
Uh,
no?
yes, initially it was before I joined the team. There was my colleague Silvan, which told me that initially, since this was all like a GitHub repository, they only visualized the files as they were.
Yeah,
And also we have this README file that is the dataset card,
yeah,
and they show it this card, but that was like 3 years ago.
yeah,
But since then, it become more intuitive. I think we they implemented the showing the first 100 rows,
yeah,
so that we can have a preview of the data. But nowadays, we are working. Our team is have grown. We are 60 members, and now what we want to do is to provide datasets users a platform, a place where they can easily explore the data
Yeah.
without having to download them, because there are big data sets of gigabytes or
Mm-hmm.
terabytes. What if you want to explore them or want to look for something? You will have to download everything. But that's not what we want to do. We want to make their task easier and friendly, that even people that are not related to the data itself can explore it
Yeah.
and can take advantage or use in their models.
So just to
Also,
yeah, just to sorry to interrupt, to kind of
yeah,
wrap up. So the dataset preview is kind of like a super README, right? Coming back to the history of when you started the dataset, first there was just the card, right, which is the README, I guess, I believe,
yeah,
and then serving the data set which are there in the data folder, right?
yeah.
Um,
These are the files
yeah, and so
that users upload.
Parquet or CSV, and the dataset viewer is working on any type of file.
Yeah, we support CSV, Parquet, JSON, and web datasets.
Yeah,
And CSV. Mm, maybe we can go with another dataset.
yeah,
This one is the fine web that was released 1 month ago. I think it's the bigger one because it is 74 terabytes of information
yeah,
sometimes, and still challenging for us to process this kind of data set.
yeah,
Maybe can you look for the EMDB dataset?
yeah,
No, in
uh,
the search next to
yeah,
HuggingFace. Yeah,
yeah. There's
the second.
multiple of
Yeah,
them.
the second one.
The second one, this one.
Yeah, this is a dataset for movies reviews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From IMDb.
We have the viewer totally and full working for some dataset, but it's still challenging for big data sets. In this case, it is not too much complicated.
Yeah,
Um, and here, do you want me to go through the features or not
yeah.
yet?
That's maybe what I like to understand, because we are also talking about DuckDB, is maybe a bit like how does this work behind the scene actually?
Mhm. Behind the scenes is each project in the hub is a repository.
Yeah.
We have all the files hosted in S3. What we do is to have a pipeline that runs on each of these files to get insights about it. But first, I can explain you the structure of the dataset.
Mm-hmm.
A dataset is composed of different configs, configurations, we call that, which you can use. For example, if you have a dataset that is in different languages, you will have one configuration for Spanish, one for English,
I see.
one for French. But if it's not a multilingual dataset, we have a default config, which is named default. And then the config has different splits, which are subset of these datasets. And in machine learning, we have the training dataset, the test dataset, and the evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our structure. One dataset have different configurations and different splits. That's why what you are seeing after dataset viewer, you
Yeah.
have the split. You can open the drop down.
Here.
In this case, we have, yeah.
Yeah. So
In this
that's
case, we
this is
have
the
only
configuration. That's what you mean.
yes. In this case, we have only one configuration that is the default,
Yeah.
because this dataset only supports English in this case, and we have three splits.
Okay. I see.
Okay, this is the first part of the structure. If you go to the files, you will see that all of this is stored in our S3
Yeah.
buckets. These are our sources, and all of these files can be in different formats.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can go to the dataset viewer again. What we used to have like 2 years ago was only the first 100 rows,
Yeah.
not all the dataset. What was a game changing for us was when we introduced well, actually, Silvan, which is my colleague, introduced the auto conversion to Parquet files.
Mm-hmm.
From all of these different formats, we needed to start building new features over one specific file format
Yeah.
because it's complicated to work on all of them because of the
Yeah,
features
and
and
then some of them are not optimized for
yeah,
reading, for compression, and I mean, God knows that sometimes parsing CSV schema can be a nightmare.
yeah. That's why we chose Parquet. I think it's the better one, as you mentioned, because of compression, because we have to think about the storage as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And on top of Parquet, we started to build all of these features like the pagination that you have at the bottom.
Yeah.
This was allowed us to, or users, to go to the full data set because it was not possible before. You had to just you had just a preview. Now
Yeah.
you can go for the full data set. Mm, it's still complicated for big data set because if you have the data in the storage like is 10 terabytes, if and we have to convert or to copy those
Yeah. Yeah.
Parquet files, the full data set, we will have to duplicate the size. What we do is we take the first 5 gigabytes for this big data set. This is our top currently, but at least we can give a preview of the data set to the users.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so what are you using when, like, behind the scene? I believe this is DuckDB, which is executing a query, or you have a basically an API that's going on your backend and do query for displaying the dataset viewers statistic.
Right now we are using Arrow and Parquet
Okay.
to read all the pagination, which we have an endpoint called rows. But for example, there we have here three other features that we recently implemented last year. The first part is the search bar,
Yeah.
where this is a feature we are using DuckDB specifically.
The full text
What
search,
we do,
right?
yes,
Okay.
uh, you what we do behind the scenes. We first convert everything to Parquet.
Yeah.
We store these Parquet files in another branch of the dataset. Maybe we can go to that later.
Yeah.
But for the
Right here, right?
yeah, we have a new revision or
Yeah.
branch, which is Parquet.
Okay. So this is what the auto conversion
Yeah,
basically create. Yeah.
yeah.
And this one is
Yeah.
actually uh, what is it? This one?
The DuckDB.
Yeah.
This is the part of the other implementation. First, we have the Parquet file, and then we use the full text search feature from DuckDB.
Ah, yeah, I see. Yeah.
What we do is, well, this was, I think, for now the unique way we find. What we do is we ingest a DuckDB file with all of the data because it's needed to create the
To
index,
index. Yeah.
and all of the data plus the index is stored in a new file where
Yeah.
we upload to this DuckDB branch.
Yeah.
The idea was to maybe in the future have a branch by format.
Yeah.
Currently, we have the Parquet and this DuckDB file. And for the full text search, what we do, um, each time it's needed to perform a search, we download this file and we execute the full text search function, which is the BM25
Yeah.
over this dataset, and that's all.
Yeah.
For we have here two other features. Can you imagine what are them?
So far
Statistics.
we talk. So just to recap, we there is the octoconvert that put into Parquet, for compute statistic and display more easily, and then we have the full stack search, and then there is also statistic being computed here, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, those also maybe are used with through DuckDB, maybe. Not sure.
Initially, we were working with DuckDB to get the statistics. There was, I think it was 3 months that we were working with it, but at some point we had some concurrency issues with DuckDB.
Hmm.
Maybe it was because we were still learning how to have a good performance, or I don't know. But then we tried with Polars,
Mhm.
which is another framework that it's super stable and it's the one which we are currently using. But if you click on some of the statistics,
Yeah. So
at this point, we are running a filter
yeah.
expression over the DuckDB file.
Okay.
Oh
So
no,
this one there
we
is a
have had
failure.
many memory issues. These last days, we have. This is an issue which we are working on currently.
No
But
worries.
let's give some time. Let's give it a chance again.
I think
Maybe to
this.
the test dataset.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
this one. To the split. Sorry, to the test split.
yeah.
Maybe it should be less data.
So here we have a filter.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, this is a simple query. We
Mm-hmm.
have the select star from this table, which we ingested all the data, and we append the last part, which is the filter, the where condition.
Yeah.
Mm, and that's all. I think it was at the beginning it was difficult because we were thinking about which technology to use
Yeah.
that could cover all of these features at the same time. But now that we see how we have implemented this, only we took the B with a couple of lines, it sounds really easy.
Yeah. No, but and it's a great use of the full text search. I feel like it's a totally underrated features uh, from DuckDB. There is some captcha. What you said, like you need to re-update the index. Have some work behind the scene to do. Um, but it's a pretty neat features. Cool. So that's a good history, and that's also interesting that like if you're limiting with some framework, some part, nothing prevents you to combine. You mentioned polars to compute some statistic. um, I think that's the beauty of today is that when you have a arrow behind the scene, you can, it's easy to move data around or do some operation and use those different framework. I guess. Do you have some comment
Yeah.
on that?
Yes. Yes. Also, we faced when we were implemented it, and maybe we're still facing it, is the latency,
Yeah,
the response time with which sometimes, for example, I saw one data set with 3 columns,
yeah,
but took more time than a data set with 20 columns.
yeah,
But this is because you have to know the content, and in this case of data sets, it's difficult to have one specific strategy for all the data sets.
yeah,
Mm, so it has been interesting to work on it. We also have recently the search bar used to be slower than what you have seen
yeah,
because we have to download it, and running the full text search query was there was an issue because when we were doing the test locally it worked super fast and we didn't know what was happening in production. mm, we started to think that maybe it was the CPU, maybe we needed more memory, but no, that was not the issue. Actually, what was affecting much the performance was the disk, because we had shared storage,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we identified that it was like 7 times faster to run in a local storage. That could have been obvious, but it took me some time to understand that.
Yeah, yeah, it's true that like with our powerful laptop today, right? We sometimes forget that the servers and cloud are designed differently, also to for that purpose. So we have about 20 minutes, and I want to so we cover basically with the high-level component of HuggingFace. The we zoom in on the dataset viewer, the history. How do you do the calculation behind the scene? Where are you using DuckDB? Now there is two interesting thing I want to dive is the text to SQL and also the Hugging Face extension that was just announced yesterday. Which one do you want to start?
Let's start with the extension.
Yeah, sure. Um, so I can, so maybe I have actually here we can maybe start with the one that we were just busy, right? So let me just check. You're seeing my screen, right?
Yes,
Um, how much is actually this one? Yeah, it's totally okay.
it's lower. Mhm.
So yeah, so we were busy with this IMDb data sets. So maybe I can pick this one. And so I need, so the big news basically before I'll do the magic and then we'll give the explanation. So if I launch, do you, how do you usually use DuckDB? I'm curious. Mostly on Python or through the CLI when you're using ad hoc, in an ad hoc way locally?
Using the CLI,
Yeah, nice.
think it's easy.
um, I'm all for all flavors, but I'm also using the CLI. So what we can do actually, which is pretty magic, is that we can read a data set and query directly from a local DB, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I suggest we create directly a table in memory. So let's say IMDb, Hugging Face has select, and here is the magic. So what do I need to do?
You need to put HF,
Yeah,
uh, the dots and slashes,
yeah. So that's
and now you have.
the reference to Hugging Face dataset, and
Yes, this is the file system
yeah, and then I guess
data sets.
datasets with an
Yes,
S,
yes. Slash and the name of the
and then
data set.
the 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 path of the repository. So I need.
The name with Stanford, because with Stanford is the user or the organization,
Mm-hmm.
and the dataset name is CMDB. You can copy,
Yeah, so EMDB. So if I copy this,
but
actually,
you need to put also the Stanford name.
yeah. So the uniqueness is basically based on
Yes,
organization, uh,
and the
name,
dataset
the
name.
name of the data set, and then the path within the repo. So we need this and basically the name of the Stanford NLP, right? And
Yeah,
then basically, let's take the test data set, train data set. I don't know. Yes. And so if I do this and I'm missing something,
the
um,
start, or you
that
can
will
say
be
from.
that will be better. Exactly. I can also do just this, right? Because DuckDB is a
Yeah.
first statement, and that would be enough. So, oops, of course,
Uh, uh, uh,
it's not working.
you have to remove the resolve and main part.
Where
Oh, no, no,
no,
sorry, sorry, sorry.
the resolve is not there.
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm
Plain
wondering if
text. Can you go to the datasets viewer again.
I think with the path is not correct. So we have FF dataset stand for NLP. So one thing I think that would be great is to have a link like this where you could can I actually link to the full link of the dataset if I click here?
Yeah, you can access using the HTTP link.
Yeah,
No, you have to click on the file.
yeah.
What I usually do. Well, you can copy the download link.
Yeah. So just over there. Yeah, but
Uh,
here if I'm copying here, so basically, so if I'm copying everything here on the thing, that's the right one, right? So let's do again.
or first, what if we try to select all the files with the globe pattern? Maybe.
Uh, yeah, but normally should be able to read the single file, right?
No, without globe
Yeah,
and without main.
that's what you mean. And
Yeah, and maybe all. Yeah,
ah, he's more happy.
but it have to work with the name. We can try.
Yeah, we'll try. We'll try again. Probably a path which is not correct on the first one. Yeah.
Maybe.
But so let's wait just a couple of seconds, and actually, what I can do is take another shell and show. I had played just before with this dataset. It's just a dataset from Reddit about climate. So this is just that. So both are done. Woohoo! So now we have the full data set actually here in this instance. And so what is really cool, I'm zooming in, is out is that now we can do query around this, right? We can perform
Yep.
full text search or other things. Here it's mostly a data set which is pretty simple with text, right? But I think what I wanted to show here, for example, um, we have a couple of things here. ID, the post title, and the comments, because it's for each post, and then there is a series of comments um, for Reddit. But so what is the initial intention to enable this extension and to be able to read directly from DuckDB? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Mm, One of our objectives is not just to have this viewer with all the features, but we know that people need to explore maybe locally
Yeah,
with different frameworks. Mm, Currently, they can do it with using pandas, polars, and they previously it was also possible using the Python API
yeah,
for DuckDB. But there are, as you mentioned, there is people that likes more using the CLI to do without having to set up any specific language
yeah.
in
That's
their
true.
laptop, because using the CLI is super fast. You just download a file and you can run it.
Yeah,
And also, previously we have a long URL file for this Parquet file. Sorry, a long URL for all of these Parquet files. But as you can now hear, you just need to remember the dataset name and the file,
yeah,
and that's all. Previously, it was longer and maybe confusing. This is one point of the integration, and the other one that we used to have issues is about the authentication.
yes,
Currently, you can. This is a public dataset, but
yeah.
we also
So
have.
yeah, well, because I want to time is running out, but we can mention that. So there is on the DuckDB documentation, I believe you actually contributed to that page, or actually,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yes.
so this one tell you what you can do with the HuggingFace dataset from DuckDB, and of course, if you want, so this is what we did actually, and you see we can also use revision specific. So maybe that's where it was not happy. I don't know. Um, and we can, that's what you were talking, authenticate to Hugging Face, um, either with the token or with the credential chain where your token, Hugging Face token is over there, to be able, I guess, to query your private data set. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Um, cool. That's really great. We have. I just want to show something before diving to the text to SQL. Um, you can also do it through MotherDuck. And so this is the UI. Of course, you can connect to MotherDuck just by doing open MD, and I'll be connected to MotherDuck. So this is my database in the cloud, and everything that I'm gonna do in the UI, I can show you. You can do it here. But so what is pretty nice is that you can create a database. First, I need just I'll create just a database, Hugging Face datasets, and I create just the same dataset from the Reddit climate comments, and that's it. And now I can query basically those data sets from MotherDuck. You see it recognize the schema and so on. So that's pretty neat because then you were talking about larger data sets. That's also a way to, if you don't want to use your local machine, to basically use the power of MotherDuck. And we do have still a free tier, so you can go sign up and try it out. But I think that's pretty neat. I think I'm gonna update because MotherDuck, we have some public data set that we are hosting on our site. But I think I'm gonna definitely add a couple of like simple queries for people to get started based on a GigFace dataset, because that's just pretty neat to have them already there. So yeah, thank you for that. So text to SQL, what is all about? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, yeah. You know, nowadays all people is powering feature with AI.
Yeah,
Why not SQL this time? I think data engineers and data analysts uh, started to ask about if there is going to be the possibility to have a natural language input and to have a result
yeah,
that maybe covering an SQL query, SQL, which is ultra. I think it's really easy because if you have the correct model that does this operation to convert from natural language to SQL, it's easy. There are many models that are really mm, are fast, are solid. They generate correct SQL. But what is the challenging here, and many companies, even enterprise companies, are with this challenge, is that you need to elaborate the context for the model.
yeah,
You just need to pass some information for the model to know how to generate the SQL command. In this case, in simple words, what we do and what you can do to try this text to SQL is to pass the model the schema of the tables and the query. Basically, you say, based on this schema, we have these columns, these data types. I want to know this question, and the model generates an SQL query. That's all behind the scenes. There are many implementations which what changes is the basically the prompt,
yeah,
because if you do this text to SQL task with only one data set, one table, it's super fast and easy. But what if you have a real application with different tables, different schemas? There is the challenge because we have messy schemas sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have columns that don't even understand why is the name of this column,
Yeah, that's
what do
true.
they store, So maybe this problem is not solved, isn't solved yet. There are many open papers that are starting to think if this is solved, but it's not. Models are generating correctly the SQL commands, but not. I think it's not ready to implement in a big solution.
Yeah, but you mentioned a really good point is that if your metadata is not there, it's not correct, the model that can basically, do nothing for you. So you have meaningless like column name like 0, 1, and so on. I don't know if you work with SAP database, but they're really, I'm pretty sure if there is people in the audience that work with SAP source database, uh, it's basically technical name for a lot of things. At least back then when I worked with it. So it's like it's really difficult to make sense of anything. You need kind of um, a semantic layer or that's feed by
Yeah.
the business initially to mention like this is what this column mean and so on. So I think like description of columns would be an important field in the future, right? To feed those models. But so this is I'm talking to your blog. I share it by the way on YouTube for folks and on LinkedIn. Um, there is, as you said, you build a prompt based on the schema and then use the model. So that's the text-to-SQL model that Mother Duck and Number Station actually released, right? And which is available actually, sorry, on Mother Duck organization. So here you have a space with a demo that you can try. And you also build a space based on this tutorial, which is just explaining how this thing works. And we have a notebook, which is still running. So if you want to use the notebook, it's actually, I think at the end of the blog, maybe
Yep.
here. So it's here. I'll share it directly. Let me give you a sec in chat. Notebook for our friends YouTube and people on LinkedIn. And so yeah, so what it does is that first you install just the dependency Python, right? And here what do we do? That's the biggest part.
Yes, here's where you download the model to run it locally.
Yeah. So we actually not really running it locally. We're running locally on Colab
Oh,
server.
locally, and yeah,
Now it's
yeah,
important to
but
mention
locally in
because
Colab.
when I'm there, I'm local, right? It's sometimes we forget if you can have also Jupyter Notebook running local. So it's just important
Yeah,
to
I meant
mention.
locally because these days many people think that they are using LLM models, but actually they are using an API,
Yeah,
which is not exactly a model but a service. But this kind of doing manually, I would say is like
yeah, yeah.
locally.
Exactly. So this is the model itself. So this is pretty large. So that's why it takes a bit of time. So if you're running it on your side, be just a bit patient. There is 7 GB of to download, and then here what does this part do?
In this part, we are loading the model. In this case, using Llama CPP, which is most powerful with these goof format
Yeah,
models, which are like a minimized version of the real model, because the original model took is like 15 gigabytes, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, exactly. I think I don't know if we can see it directly there. You can see the size.
Yeah, you will have to zoom
Yeah,
the.
Yeah, it's roughly like, yeah, 12 or mostly around 12 gigabyte. Yes.
Yeah, it's possible to load also with transformers or other libraries,
Yeah.
but by the time I was working on it, my laptop has not enough resources. That's why I rather to use the minimizer.
That makes sense. All right, so this is done. Um, we have loaded the model. What is this part does actually? It's
Okay. In this part, we are using the datasets viewer API. As we were talking before, we have converted Parquet files,
mm-hmm.
and we have in this specific API, what we do is we ask for the Parquet URLs
Yeah,
that we can use it in DuckDB later.
yeah. And after that, DuckDB part. Um, so you actually use it uh, just to create to generate the DDL, right?
Yes, maybe we could have used the scribe command for the Parquet, but I think the format we will have to form in a DDL way, SQL DDL.
Yeah,
That's why I rather using this.
and for DuckDB user, this is actually a pretty neat trick, which not a lot of people knows. But I use it in the past to feed. So before our text-to-SQL model, when I was using ChatGPT for debugging pipeline, or sometimes I feed the model, and I was using exactly this function. So if you actually, so if I go back um, and I do uh, so from DuckDB tables, which is a table function, you can see I have all the create table statement DDL that's available based on the dataset. Cool. So now we have the DDL. We just need to basically ask the query, the natural language. So here you ask cities from Albania country, and then here is the prompt.
Yeah, in this prompt, what we're doing is adding just the schema and the
Yeah, and
query in natural language.
so here we have the DDL and then the query input. Uh, I think like the query input is, I see here query should be query input, right?
Mm, yeah, but we are formatting it in the next line.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see it. Ah, I was getting confused. You got me for a sec. So, what are we doing here?
We are sending the prompt to the model and
Yep,
getting the first choice because sometimes models return more than one response.
yep.
We are getting the first one and getting the text of it. Let's see.
So
This
this,
part could take some seconds to run.
yeah, it could take some seconds. We are after that, so we're pretty much there. Um, but we can maybe already ask like for conclusion, what's next for you? What's next for you at HuggingFace or for the data and the dataset viewer? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, in the dataset viewer, we still have some challenges. Uh, some of them related to big data sets. As I mentioned, we currently cover the first 5 GB, so we
Yeah,
have to work on that. And also we have some, since there's a lot of data sets, there are some ethics concerns. It would be great to maybe start, not sure if auditing, but we have to be responsible about what people is sharing because
yeah,
there are sometimes legal issues, um, many topics even about sexual abuse that
yeah.
you can imagine that there can be there, but
Yeah,
this kind of
like in
concern.
GitHub, there is always some weird and dark stuff. So I guess you need to have uh, to to have some kind of audit. So audits and moving forward from the 5 GB of size of data set. That's exciting. So we just run it, and now we have this SQL which is being generated, right? So that's the SQL which is
Yeah.
generated from the model, right?
Hmm.
And now basically we can just this is just using DuckDB and running the query, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And-
and actually, so the SQL outputs them. Where do you? Yeah, you get the data there. No, but that's amazing. That's really great. So it's a fun example to play with text to SQL and DuckDB. Um, Also, so in this session, we talked about the HuggingFace extension, right? So now you can query directly HuggingFace dataset directly from the DuckDB CLI or any client if you're more into Golang or Python or whatsoever. Um, you can too. Um, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. I had a much of fun to dive deep into the history of the data viewer, and I'm really looking forward. I think this extension is opening a lot of doors, like I mentioned, with uh, loading larger data set in MotherDuck and doing pre-compute over there, transformation. I think we can be really creative. So yeah, looking forward on that, and have have a great day because it's still the afternoon for you.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I'll put all the links in the description regarding your blog, the notebook, and so on. Is there any thing else you would like to add?
We have also some or examples about how to use this new extension in DuckDB with datasets, covering like other features. So visit the page and yeah, thank you for the invitation. I enjoyed the session. It was nice to participate.
Cool. We'll see you around. The Quack and Code live stream are happening every other week. So